Okay, so first thing, I know you guys don't know who's playing, so you guys will find out when we get there how we're doing that. Um, we're really the decisions that we're making are for competition and to give guys the opportunity to show everything that they can show to make this club, knowing that we're coming down to the end of it here, so end of camp. So it's a really big opportunity for us, and looking forward to it in a number of ways. And yeah, we'll see how that goes for those guys. I'm really rooting for a lot of guys to come through and have a big night and make the plays that they're capable of making and show themselves really well. So this is a chance to finish the preseason on a good note. We're certainly going for that. We didn't like the first couple, and so we're looking to make a better statement about where we are. Yeah, I think he's he's making a bit of a statement now, and but I have nothing for you to update, and he deserves to do that.
What about the modern athletes make statements this way, other than it used to be they just wouldn't count?
Yeah, I think the guys are ahead of I don't know, I can't remember what all the rules were in the past as far as guys not coming and showing up and all of that in the past. But I think it's a opportunity for players in all sports to communicate, where they're coming from, and this is a way to do it. And Quandre's been great all through camp. He's had a fantastic camp, and he's in great shape, and he's ready to go.
What's going on with Blaine Brown?
I have no updates for you.
D. Eskridge has been back now 2 weeks. Just what have you seen out of him? How's he looking?
Interestingly, that we in the short time we had him before his toe acted up, he showed us kind of like a little bit of his range of things he could do. He showed us how he can catch the football. He showed us getting in and out of breaks, his comfort in dealing with the deep ball, and also we had early on we did things with him that we hadn't seen in college because they didn't ask him to do stuff, different route concepts and things like that. So that he made a real good impression right off the bat, but you never know till it still sticks. He came back out here and he's done everything that we've asked him to do very capably. He's strong, he bursts, he's in and out of breaks, very comfortable again on the deep ball, catching the ball way down the field. Russ hit him for a 60-yarder the other day, and just looked like it was no big deal. We'll learn more about expanding him in the kicking game too as we go forward. We've kind of put that on the back burner for a bit, but our hopes were that we could involve him there also. And there's nothing that's happened that doesn't give us all the hopes that he's going to be a big contributor.
Is he a guy you'd like to see something out of maybe tomorrow?
Yes.
Pete, John Reed came in. How has his been onboarding process this week?
He jumped on the scene. He came out here and made a couple plays the first day, and he's hustling around. He's a real active, plays fast, and he's a smart kid. You can see it because he's picked things up very quickly already. So he's done a good job. Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see him tomorrow night.
One more Marquise Blair kind of.
He's doing way better. Yeah, way better. Really excited that he's back and able to play and all of that. And so. He made a good push this week, so he feels very comfortable. He's a really competitive kid, as you guys know, and he's dying to get out there.
How about Ethan?
Ethan had a good week, and it's been unfortunate because we had this big competition going on at center that he hasn't had a chance to show yet, and with any numbers. So Kyle's done really well. Ethan hasn't done anything to hurt himself other than he hasn't been able to take advantage of the opportunities in camp. So we'll see how that goes.
What in particular about Kyle there have you seen and do you like?
Well, when we've evaluated all the centers that were available, coming out as we do in all the positions, and I thought that he had all of the fundamentals: size, weight, arm length, quickness, stoutness, and he's played the position for years in college, and so I was really hopeful that he could really make a surge. Remember, he got screwed up in the start of camp last year and didn't really get to make the statement that he wanted to. So he's been able to do everything, and he's really commanded the line of scrimmage too. And he and Russ get along great, and with the communications, he's working well with the guards. He has given us no reason to say that he can't start. So he's done a nice job, really well. Well done.
This offense and what you've had the 12 years, how would you describe it compared to the Bill Walsh West Coast offense, the origins? How has that concept evolved?
That's a good question. It's a really good question because let's use the word origins. The origins of this offense really go all the way back to San Francisco. Because and I've always given Mike Shanahan a lot of credit. Maybe not so much openly, but realistically, the credit to take what they had done in the West Coast offense, the principles of the throwing game, and getting the ball out and really quarterback friendly stuff, and matched it with a different running game than what happened in the San Francisco days. And he brought in Alex Gibbs, and they put together the zone running game, and so to me it's the new version of the West Coast. I guess that term gets thrown around a lot, and I was fortunately got a chance to see the pure part of it, way back in the day, and. So there's the roots are there, and that's about timing. That's quarterback friendly. That's about the mix of the running game, the rhythm of the throwing game. All of those things are very similar. Which, when in my second year at USC, we transferred into that whole mentality. And that for year one didn't happen that way, but year two did. And from that time on, we used the same principles and the foundations of those aspects that came out of West Coast all the way back then. But it's the upscaled versions, the new version with zone running game. And so that's really, James was raised in that system, and so he's very, very comfortable with it. And there's a lot of similarities. I think that's what you asked, is there similarities or whatever?
The way the tight end's used, is that another variation of the West Coast, or that's just evolution of pro football?
No, that's more so the athletes. The way the athletes fit the position. Whether you're using a fullback a lot, or whether, like San Francisco does with Jusic, or you adapt the tight ends. That basically that's using the talent that you have.
One thing you've heard consistently about Shane is very organized, detail-oriented. What does that look like as you're getting to know him and working with him on a day-to-day?
I have a lot of respect for his ability to process and his mental agility, and to hold a lot of information, which is, when you're an offensive guy, there's a lot going on, and he's really good at it. I think too, I don't know if this is where you want to go, but his background allowed him to learn what's going on up front in a detailed fashion, and when he addresses the team, the offensive team, he can talk to the centers and the guards and the tackles all the way in and out. And so that's why him being on the sidelines is important, because he can help guys make adjustments right on the fly, right there, where it's not as accessible when you're in the box, so it's a natural for him to be there. But
Speaking of the West Coast offense, guys, it was announced this week Mike Holmgren's going in the Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
Matt Hasselbeck as well. You coached him. I know you've gotten to know Michael, but since you've been around here, just your thoughts on those two.
Yeah, I think it's a great tribute to a fitting game. He really, kick-started this thing that kind of led us to where we are. I think Mike really put us on the map, and that's not to say that Chuck didn't and the guys before him didn't do a great job, but Mike took it into he kind of set the table for us, I think, and it's set the table for expectations, which I really love. Our fans really understand that, by going to the Super Bowl and all that, and he's been incredible. Another guy who came out of the West Coast situation and made it work, and did it in great fashion.
What about Matt? You coached him a year.
Yeah, well, I'm thrilled that he's in this thing. Matt's, when I got here, one of the real reasons I could see this as being a good opportunity is that Matt Hasselbeck was here. We had an established quarterback that could run the club and give you a chance, and you weren't starting from scratch, and so I owe, my opportunity to get here a lot to Matt. And he was a great competitor, really fun to work with, really another really bright guy, that could handle information and handle communications and even the messaging to the players, and he was fantastic. And I see why he won a lot of games, and I can see why he's there.
Did Mike he was in Cleveland, I guess, when you got here, but did Mike Holmgren show you around the organization?
No. That doesn't happen very often.
And else. Back on the West Coast thing, what did Holmgren do that tweaked it from the Walsh days?
Yeah, he did. He took all of the way I saw it. He took all of the fundamentals of it, and which the fundamentals of the West Coast is it's the quarterback system, really. It's what Bill Walsh was so famous for, is making it so the quarterback could be successful, and that has to do with the expectations of the position, how you organize it so his reads fit, so the quickness of the passing game, the reliance on the short passing game to catch and run, all of those things to make it quarterback friendly. That was the heart of it. And then the Bob McKittrick running game that went along with it was out of this world. It was, you guys could, I mean, it's so far out there. He was so unique, and he added that to Bill Walsh's stuff. When Mike left, he did not take all of Bob McKittrick's stuff. He didn't. The running game didn't stay the same. If you remember, they used to line up in split backs a lot. Well, they went back to more of a tailback oriented offense, and a mixture of the stuff. Mike was still doing a mixture of the stuff, but not committed. No, the point I'm getting to is that he wasn't as committed to the zone running game as Mike Shanahan was, and that's the difference between the two of those guys. Mike had a more eclectic running game to go with the passing game. Mike Holmgren did, but they really threw the ball about the same, and the play passes changed a little bit over time and all that, but Mike was more at the root, closer to the old than Mike Shanahan was. And these are totally my opinion and the defensive ball coaches' observations of it.
Sticking with origins, where did that bear package that you guys used come from? Did Monty Kiffin bring that to this?
No, you're going back to the Bears now. Did you call it the bear package? Yeah. Well, that goes back to those guys, the seven diamond defense was an old deal. It was an old thing that Woody Hayes would make his teams always practice against the seven diamond, because one time I think Illinois or somebody threw out the seven diamond and kicked Ohio State's butt. And from that point forward, that was similar in kind of fashion, and so it goes way back. But Buddy was the guy that brought the thing to life. That's. To me, everything goes back to what Buddy was doing. I used to say when we played against the great Chicago defense, the 85s and 86s right in there when they were unbelievable. There was if you watched what they asked guys to do and players, they would expand your expectations of what guys could do with the creativity and the crazy stuff that Buddy would ask his players to do, and it changed me forever, and so it really goes back to that though. I think that's the origin that we can of that, and that's the 46 defense and all that stuff.
Back to Shane real quick. Just how have you seen his relationship?
This is kind of fun. We're kind of all over a lot here. I like it. Yeah, it's good.
Just how have you seen Shane's relationship progress, grow this year? From your point of view, what's that dynamic?
They've worked together beautifully. Those two guys have been able to make it happen so quickly and all. I mean, I can't wait for us to play and show you, how it all fits together and all that stuff. And that opportunity's coming. And but it's now this is like kind of the honeymoon period. We got the games coming up, and we got to work our stuff out, and we got to be productive and explosive and efficient and all that kind of stuff. And so those guys have set up the foundation for their relationship in extraordinarily solid form, and they communicate really well. I mean, they're just connected, and which is what it needs to be, and more so at this early point than I could have expected, and more so than we've been in the past. So hopefully that will really help us.
As the leaders trying to get your team ready for a season, how do you approach Diggs and Brown and wanting them to make their statement, knowing this is how they can make their statement? Now,
I really appreciate you asking me this question really well. Are we good?
Well, is that Screech playing tomorrow?
You'll have to wait and see. I mean, I'm not that bad. I mean, I know. I won't be offended by the fact that you asked me that at all. I know you got to.
Thank you.